morning, everyone. It's early Sunday morning. I have to work today, but I received two Bell Canto REF150S units belonging to a friend of mine, and they need repair. Now, this is two units that are screwed into a common chassis for rack mount. If you look at the back here, you can see these are two actually separate units. They're screwed in from the bottom. So neither of them are working. I'm going to take a look, see what the problem is. I seriously doubt I'll be able to get schematics on this thing. A lot of companies don't like to release them for whatever reason. I believe the only real concern would be that they would be knocked off by a country like China, perhaps. And if they had any desire to do that, they would simply buy one of these, reverse engineer it, and knock out their own clone or copy. In any event, let's take a look here and see what we got. Here's a view inside one of the amps. Got the cover off. There were 3 screws on each side to get this off. There were 4 screws on the bottom that mounted it into the rack mount case. And it's a very simple layout inside. You have a power supply board, an input board, and the amplifier board. This is a Class D or switch mode output stage. So I'm going to power this up. I believe my friend said that it would not power up. So we're going to see if it powers up, do some quick voltage checks in here, and try and isolate where the problem is. All right, guess we can rule out the power supply, because that's putting out a healthy 326 volts. Like a buddy of mine used to say, don't put your lips on it. That lights you up pretty good. With no schematics, it's really hard to tell what's going on. It appears our problem is in here. There's a switch mode power supply on this board that's not running, and that's not applying any power to the input board as well as the rest of this circuitry. And without a schematic, I don't know what's hot and what's not, and I don't want to connect any test equipment up aside from a multimeter, which is by its nature isolated. It's not tied to ground anywhere. But one thing you can do with these to find out if the switcher is actually running is take your scope probe and just wave it around here like a wand. You don't have to actually connect it to anything, but it should pick up the electromagnetic radiation from the switcher when it's running. And if you look at the screen, and I'm in manual focus so it doesn't pump in and out, you can see when I wave the probe around that we're not getting anything here. There's a little bit of noise pickup. So I'm gonna have to look at this and see where the problem is. I know our voltage is coming in at the switcher here because I measure our 300 volts all the way through the fuse. So I just need to check around this area and find out if I'm losing it somewhere or if the chip that drives the oscillator that drives this transformer has got a problem. Since I'm unable to find a schematic on this unit, I thought the best move would be to try and find the pulse width modulation chip that controls the switch mode power supply and see what the voltage on that look like. Most of these will have a line of demarcation drawn on the PCB, so you'll have a hot side and then you'll have the passenger side or the cold side, the other side of the power supply. And I was able to locate the PWM chip, and that guy is right here. And I have it on a microscope, so let me move over to the screen and I'll show you what I found. This is the PWM chip, and it's an SG3525. Sometimes the numbers on these can be hard to read under the microscope, but if you take a flashlight and just shine it across there, you can usually get a better contrast. You can see it's clearly a SG3525. I thought that was the 6 at first. But I was able to pull up a data sheet, and what I found when I looked at the VCC pin, which is what we got here, that is pin number 13, I was getting 1.9 volts. And it says on the data sheet that operation is anywhere from 8 to 35 volts. So I knew I had a problem there. And what I did was I went with the hypothesis that the gentleman told me these had been left on. He went for a trip, came back, and they were dead. So I believe that there was a lightning-induced power surge, and that's what took this out. So I was looking for blown components, trying to trace from the high voltage side to see how it got down to a voltage that this IC would accept. But I finally took the coward's way out, and I went to AI and asked what the problem was, and it told me to look at capacitors. And I thought that was a little odd, but sure enough, I found an electrolytic. Now, even though this is largely a surface mount device, I'm going to take you back to the board and just show you that all the electrolytic capacitors on this particular board are through hole. So as you can see, there are no surface mount electrolytics on here. They use full size, and it's normal for these bigger capacitors, but I've seen some that have surface mount electrolytics, but these are all through hole electrolytics on here. There are no surface mount electrolytics. And this one was bad. This was supposed to be 47 microfarads, and you can see here it read. So this is supposed to be 47 microfarads, and you can see here it read about 1.2 with very high ESR, 2.3K. So I changed that out, and sure enough, the switch mode power supply came up. And I'm going to show you on the scope, because now if I just wave the scope probe within 6 inches of this thing, you can clearly see that the switch mode power supply is running. I decided to take my LCR meter and just do a quick spot check of the electrolytics in there, and I found two 100 microfarad on the cold side of the PCB, on the amplifier side, that are supposed to be 100 microfarads each. And as you can see, one of them is measuring 540 nanofarads, and the other one they didn't bother to measure. It's under the microscope here, and if you look at the screen, you can see it clearly has electrolyte leaking out. I didn't think this thing was that old. I've mentioned that I've gone through Marantz receivers that are 50 years old, and all the capacitors are fine. But the capacitors in switch mode power supplies, and apparently these ice power amplifier stages, are run really hard, and their lifespan is apparently significantly shortened. Alright, so I've got this powered up now, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm using my old isolation transformer that I still have from my CRT-based television servicing days back in the early 90s. And you want to use an isolation transformer when you're testing a switch mode power supply, because these have what they call hot chassis, even though there's no chassis involved here. In any event, I pulled the camera back so you can see my scope. Let me go back a little further so you can see my scope in the board. And if you just take a scope probe and you wave it anywhere near here, you can see the radiation, and I'm just a few inches off the board. That's the radiation from the switch mode power supply running. So this thing is energized now. So at least the power supply is up and working. And apparently the power supply is not the only thing that's up and working, because now the whole thing works. And if you just watch me turn up my preamp, so this thing is working, and I would not have believed it, but it was simply bad capacitors. Now, I did have a rant on changing capacitors as a troubleshooting method, and I still stand by that because I took a more methodical approach to this. I'm probably going to change out some of the other small capacitors in here. They get worked really hard in these switch mode power supplies. So, lesson learned. They did use surface mount on the input board in the back. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I believe it was the heat generation that got to these, because all the capacitors that had failed were near sources of heat. I had my thermal camera, and this transformer here runs fairly warm, as I'm sure this heatsink does. Now, these big capacitors are right next to the heatsink. It's crappy design in my opinion, but large value caps tend to hold their value longer, simply because there's more electrolyte and they don't dry out as fast as the small ones. But that was the entire problem with this, and I would not have believed it. And I have to thank AI for pointing me in this direction, because I really thought that, based on the symptoms I was given, that it was left on, and when he returned from a short trip, they were not working. And that's all it was. So anyhow, I'm going to get into the other one. If there's anything interesting there, I'll add it on the end of this video. I'm about to pull a second amp out of the rack here. And one thing I want to mention, because I trip across this fairly often, is these screw heads. These are Phillips. They're filled with something. I've seen this where these things are drug across softwood or cardboard, and you can't get a Phillips head in there or it'll cam out. So I take a dental pick and I just get the stuff out of there, and then you can get the screwdriver in. And the other thing I want to mention is, in cases where you can't get service literature and you can identify integrated circuits, it's really helpful. And in fact, it's the only reason I managed to get this working. There's a guy who has a YouTube channel. His YouTube handle is Buy It, Fix It, Mix in the UK. And the vast majority of the things I've seen to repair, and the man is fearless, he will work on anything. He had no schematics. I think I saw one where he had a schematic. And he manages to fix almost everything. He's very good at looking at newer equipment and identifying integrated circuits, be they buck converters or what have you. And if he gets a part number, he'll get a data sheet and he'll go from there, and his success rate is very good. So if you're looking for another YouTube channel, I highly recommend you check out Mick. Buy It, Fix It. Well, if I would have opened this module up first, I would have had a clue where the problem was, because I can clearly see just at a glance that these two capacitors are domed on the top, and I would have changed them out. Even though I didn't think that's where my problem is, I do have a pretty hard and fast rule. If you see a problem, fix it. Even if you don't think it's what's causing your problem, in many cases, it is exactly what is causing your problem. So doesn't hurt to change them out, because you're gonna have to change them out anyway. All right, so the second one went off without a hitch, and it was nothing but bad capacitors. I really don't know what to say about it. I learned something. Some of this newer stuff, and some of these were Elna caps. They were high quality. I guess these ice power amps just run them really hard. These modules are made to go inside powered speakers. They have a lot of RTV on the capacitors, which made them hard to get out, which also leads me to believe that Canto simply bought the ICE modules and stuck them in their own box with their power supply and input board. But in any event, that was the whole problem with this: bad capacitors. Not only were those swollen, but I found leaks, electrolyte leakage at the bottom. So yeah. Switch mode power supplies in general run capacitors really hard, and apparently so do these ICE power amps in the output stage. So, lesson learned. I have an idea what to look for next time, and if I would only have opened this one up first, I would have seen what the problem is, because those two capacitors were clearly swollen, and that would have gotten me to look at the rest of them. But, c'est la vie, this is life. Anyhow, as always, I thank everyone for watching, and I like giving back to the community that's given me so much. Thanks a lot, folks.